Hello, good morning. I have Ms. Nikki Upchurch with us today, and she is going to be talking to us about entwining health and eliminating disruptors. And she shared this information with me the other night, and I thought, wow, we really need to record this and get this out to other people. So I
Mm.
hope you enjoy this information. And first of all, I want to thank Nikki. Thank you so much for taking the time to create this slideshow and also to share this information with us.
You're so welcome, Amy. I'm happy to do it. I hope that people will find it helpful. I learned quite a bit along the way while I was putting it together, and I'm excited to be with you today. So thank you for the privilege of being together.
Oh, you're welcome.
You ready for me to get started?
Sure,
All
please. That
right.
we can't wait to hear the information. And every
Okay.
time I talk to Nikki, we are just always chatting back and forth because I always have to take notes. I learn so much from her, and she really spurs me on. And I so appreciate that about you.
Oh, thank you. Our time always flies by so fast, and we never get everything covered that we want to talk about. So I am grateful for this time right now to share about eliminating disruptors, specifically endocrine disruptors. So I'm going to go through this presentation, and I'll make it as expedient as possible, and hopefully it will be helpful.
Yes, thank you.
So the ideas we're going to dive into, I have introducing wellness ways. We use some resonance devices from Germany. Also, red light. We're going to talk more about that, but that's another story for another day. And then we do the Ragland test. It's a little screening that we can do to find out how one's body is responding as far as endocrine health and functional capacity based upon their current stress level. The Ragland test is very simply having a person lie down and checking their blood pressure and their heart rate, having them immediately stand up, and within less than 2 minutes, 2 minutes or less, my dog just stood up when I did that. That was her motion. Um, when they stand up, we check their systolic, diastolic blood pressure and heart rate. The difference in the systolic and the heart rate trying to compensate for the blood pressure shift is very indicative of how their body is responding to stress. So,
Okay.
systolic should elevate ever so slightly when they stand to pump the blood uphill, because the systolic is when the heart is pumping and we actually have that blood pressure increase during the pumping. And then the diastolic is when it's refilling and the pressure on the blood vessels as it's refilling. But what we find is that when people are struggling with their health and stress is really kind of sandbagging their adrenals, is that systolic may drop. If it drops
Okay.
20 points and the heart rate elevates, that is an indicator that, wow, they might really benefit from adrenal adaptogens. We've got to make some lifestyle changes and support their body.
Okay.
Um,
Wonderful.
Invitation is number two, and that was just an invitation for them to be involved in this presentation, identifying the disruptors. And I use the terminology without and within, meaning that there are things external and there are things internal that will disrupt our endocrine system. How can we remove them? How can we replace them with healthier things that will not disrupt the endocrine system? And how can we support our endocrine system in our body if we are finding that we have disruptors within us? Okay, Brook House Research, Brook House Wellness is a company that I started, goodness, 15 years ago. It is in honor of Dr. Brook Heiser in the Netherlands. Dr. B helped me get my life back after 10 years of a specific illness that I had tried to overcome. Conventionally, it was very challenging to be in and out of hospitals and try to find something that would help me get well. We, at the end of that journey, what actually finally worked was being able to shift the body's biological terrain so that it was frequency wise inhospitable to the disruptors that were in my body that happened to be a specific pathogen from a vector that I was obtained here in the US. Um, so we're going to talk a little more about Brook House. I just a quick background, pre-med studies in college at UNT. I lost my dad at age 50, and that really spurred me on with integrative wellness. I studied preventive and exercise and nutrition, overcoming 10 years of that specific illness, and then relied on frequency and a naturopathic approach. Have now found a lab that I have been able to identify the disruptors in the body, and those are the ones that would be toxins. I'm sorry, could you hear my dog in the background? Is that disruptive?
It's okay.
Speaking of
Just
disruptors, sweet girl, lie down, settle. Thank you. Identifying disruptors in the body, whether they be pathogenic like bacteria, parasites, toxins, heavy metals, which organs and systems are being affected, what deficiencies there are in the body, whether it's stomach acid or molybdenum or B9 that needs to be methylated. And then throughout the world, we have a bank of supplements that are in our lab uh, equipment that our tissue samples will test for a person's specific body to find out what will balance their body and help the body heal itself. We are located in Colorado Springs in actually Black Forest at Shoup and Black Forest Road.
okay.
Um, this quote was inspiring to me. The more we see health as a practice rather than a problem to fix, like problem, medication.
Right.
The more that we see it as a practice and actually can lay the foundation of systems that strengthen the body to heal itself, then the more we encourage the body's natural potential to be healthy. Endocrine disruptors and where to find them. I'm going to start with the external disruptors. I know this is a busy slide, but we've got a lot to say in a short period of time. So pharmaceuticals and synthetic hormones, cleaning products, plastic containers, food packaging and preservation, pesticides, pollutants. I know that many of the people that we have tested, we have found that the phenolic rings from cleaning products are actually estrogen mimicking. And as you see in the upper right-hand corner, the disruptors actually fit like the lock and key into the docking station of our body's receptor sites. And those mimicking hormones could be chemicals. They could be something that even blocks, like plastics will come in and they'll block those receptor sites. Or they could be altering the synthesis or the body's ability to uptake any nutrients and to function as needed and to expel waste product. So we're going to talk about how these external properties affect our internal hormones, and you can see that lock and key. Something that's super helpful, I'll just throw this out while it's on my mind, is using a grapefruit essential oil, a
Right. Right.
pure grapefruit essential oil. Make sure that it is pure enough to be ingested. When that
Okay.
goes into the body, it will actually clean that receptor site and displace any of those that are blocking. So the
Okay.
hormones, when they're actually functioning well, can actually be receiving the good hormone that it needs to function.
And Nikki, for that grapefruit essential oil, how would that just be like you take it a couple times or how does that work?
That's a good question. You would take it over a period of time. Probably about 3 weeks to a month is what I found to be helpful. Never putting it in plastic because that's how it works, is it
Right.
dissolves plastic. So we always put it in glass, something glass to take that oil into the body, or you can drip it into the mouth. It's pretty strong because it's a citrus, but you can chase it with some warm water and get it into the body.
Okay. Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, thank you for clarifying that. That was a good question. So pesticides, we're going to talk a little bit about glyphosates, and that's found in Roundup. Something that kind of surprised me and is new to my knowledge is clothing. Clothing is an external disruptor of our endocrine system and our hormones. Now, I'm going to use the next couple slides to actually talk about that, so I'll go ahead and move forward. That our human cells vibrate with a resonance frequency. There are certain fabrics that are very, very healthy for our body's resonance. And if we sleep on them, they can actually kind of, if you will, charge our body's battery while we sleep at night. It doesn't make us restless or heightened in our, like caffeine would or something, but
Right.
it actually just helps charge our resonance or our healthy voltage. And that would be wool, and that would be
Hmm.
linen. So
Well,
wool,
and what was the other one? Oh, linen.
huh?
Hmm.
And those are going to be 5,000 hertz. Those are super healthy to either sleep on linen sheets, to wear wool on our bodies. However, it even mentions this in Leviticus in the Bible. Do not mix wool and linen. And scientifically, we found out in these most recent years that wool is going to vibrate from this opposite side frequency and linen will vibrate from this opposite side frequency. So if you blend the two together, they cancel each other out with a zero. And
Isn't
our
that fascinating?
crazy. It's crazy. I love learning all this. And I love having science that backs the wisdom in the Bible that we never knew. It's like, wool and linen, why would you not mix those? Are they going to shrink when you wash them and one side's anyway? Um, the
I
human
always wondered that.
human cells are going to vibrate with a healthy resonance frequency of 70 to 100-ish. So, according to the research that I studied, organic cotton, when we wear cotton, is going
Mhm.
to be 100 hertz. Hemp, on this chart, it says it's 100 hertz. I even saw some research that says it can be up to 500. So
Wow.
that's the up and coming fabric of the future, according to the research I saw. Normal cotton that's not organic is around 70 hertz. Then look on the other side of the chart. Rayon at 15, silk at 10. That one confuses me because it is a natural fiber. I know the silkworms die in the process of making the silk, but point being that rayon, silk, polyester, nylon, and acrylics are all very, very low. The frequency of a dying body resonates down to 15 hertz to zero. So
Okay,
when
so
we are, go ahead.
sorry. I
No,
just, so you said a dying body goes down to 15 hertz, and
15
what
to zero. Yeah, of
to
course,
zero?
then
Okay.
they're losing their whole vibrance as well at
Right.
the end.
And what would it be normally, like a normal healthy body?
100. That
Okay.
70 to 100. So this is something interesting. When we wear our workout clothes, they're typically going to be the stretchy and the polyester. And I found that some of my favorite brands and those that are like name brand bougie, unfortunately, are the polyesters. And maybe that's for wicking away the moisture on the skin. And they're also very cost effective to make. But workout clothes, we work out, we increase our body temperature, and then as the heat rises in our body, because we have these plastics on our skin that have been formed through a combination of acid and alcohol processing from a petroleum base, they actually can be absorbed into the pores of our skin while those pores are open with sweating. That
And
is going to,
you told me that, and I was just, oh my goodness, because I feel like I've tried to clean, do so much clean choices, but I will say my clothes are not there. And so I was just really surprised when you could explain. I've heard this before, but I haven't seen it on a slide like this. So when you explained that, that was really eye-opening, and I really wanted other people to understand this issue.
yeah, this was one of my main takeaways from this learning experience. So thank you for sharing that this was important to you as well. Guys, I went through my closet and I emptied out about 2/3 of my closet.
Wow.
And I kept cotton, wool. I tried to get more linen and I believe bamboo viscose. I believe that one is kind of okay. I saw that around a 70 hertz.
Okay.
But hemp is the up and coming, and it's going to be cost effective to create. Now, one thing we want to notice as we look at this continuum at the bottom of the slide, after those pores are open, the plastics are absorbed into our skin. That's going to lower our cellular resistance. It's going to, which we have a resonance, sorry, our cellular resonance, which immediately drags our body health down. That is so frustrating because you're working out for health, right?
Right.
And it's also going to mimic our hormone receptor docking stations. So now those plastics are going to click in, and that is one of the reasons that a lot of people struggle with hormone challenges and endocrine deficiencies. Isn't that interesting?
That's so fascinating. And it's so hard because I feel like, we clothes have been created so they're cheaper and cheaper, but the
Mhm.
problem is they've been created with these synthetic materials.
Mhm. And you're right, they are cost effective, but the damage that they're doing to our body, I kind of think we pay for it with our health, with
Mm,
supplements and not feeling well, and who knows how far that continuum itself leads. I kind of shifted gears. I can come back to the clothing anytime you would like, but just for sake of time and respecting people's ability to focus and fit this in, these are the endocrine disruptors within the body. And these are going to come from adrenal stress, which causes a release of cortisol to put on the brakes. And anytime we have an adrenal reaction, we're going to have a cortisol balancing to press that adrenal back down to reset. But if that keeps happening, then we're going to have the cortisol production is going to be to the exclusion or the detriment of thyroid hormones being produced, pituitary hormones, male hormones being produced. Um, and that's what causes a lot of the disruption up the staircase as we go. If you figure that adrenals are at the base, vitamin B, vitamin C, and minerals, and then the adrenals at the base, when we're under stress, we're going to burn those B's and C's and minerals quickly. Oftentimes, people find themselves needing some sort of adrenal supplement right there with those B's, C's, and minerals. And I'm using a lot of that with our labs and helping our people with their health. We're using a lot of adrenal adaptogens.
mm.
I'll just make mention of those right now, that those are like rhodiola, ashwagandha, holy basil, some of those just to mention. We'll talk a little bit more about supplements that are out there that you can find at Sprouts or natural grocers and that are very easily obtainable. Again, I mentioned the indicator on this is that Ragland test where they're lying down, checking the heart rate and the blood pressure while lying down. Immediately upon rising, checking the heart rate and the blood pressure and looking at the differentiation of the systolic specifically, which is the top number, and the heart rate response that compensates for that systolic going up.
Right.
Now, this slide I found interesting because we're accustomed to hearing like that adrenaline bump that we get and we go into fight or flight. When that becomes chronic, you see some of these characteristics, and these even can become personality tendencies. So
Mm,
look at the fight, which we're most common with, even though it's the second one, is that anger, the outburst, trying to control things, kind of explosive, even coming across as a bully,
mm,
irritability, judgment, slamming doors, self-harm. The flight is going to be the one who's going to avoid even judgment, criticism, and they're going to flee that stressor through workaholic, trying to control, overanalyzing, anxiety,
mm,
panic, OCD, difficulty sitting still, becoming a perfectionist, avoiding that conflict, hyperactivity, and then they internalize it all with sadness and loneliness. Now, if we look at some of these emotions, they have resonance too. Sadness and loneliness can manifest. Sadness can actually be in the lungs, grief, sadness. So you might find a person who's in constant flight. Now they're starting to have this cascade of these emotional resonance affecting their body, and different organs and systems will carry different emotions and play those out.
Isn't that fascinating that the emotions have their own? And sometimes you
Yes,
can be around someone and you can just sense that, right?
yes, and we will look at a slide in just a moment that has some of the resonance associated with various emotions, whether they be positive or negative.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
yeah, of course. Thank you. Fight or flight, we're very familiar with. People are becoming more familiar now with the terminology of freeze,
Mm,
fight, flight, or freeze. It's where, okay, we've chronically been in fight or flight, and whether we were in one or the other of those, now the body gets so depleted and the cortisol spiking rising that now we just freeze. There's
mm,
difficulty making decisions. They feel stuck, dissociation and isolating to avoid that conflict, numbing down, shutting off, exhaustion, indecision, sleeps a lot. People can kind of put that in not a diagnosis, but low moods, right? A tendency toward those low moods and low sense of happiness. And so that's where the adrenal supplements can actually, the adaptogens can actually be super helpful, because you've got to allow the body those raw building materials so that it can deal with that cortisol spiking to put the brakes on the adrenaline. We're going to talk in just a moment about how when we have an adrenaline reaction, we're also going to have an insulin reaction. So now it's going to affect our metabolism. But for now, let's just think about the adrenal and the cortisol and how that affects our hormones. The fawn is kind of a new topic to me. That's where people just kind of cower down and they become people
okay.
pleasers. They get overwhelmed yet again, like the freeze one. No boundaries. Yes, I'll do that for you. Can't say no, right? Lack of identity, even get some codependent tendencies in their appeasing part of their personality. They're engaging. I don't fully understand what that one means, but appeasing. And I think it's avoiding engaging, and they become self-critical,
Mm,
always feeling like not enough, not enough. Um, this was really eye-opening for me because something I found out is that when people stay in this chronic place of adrenaline cycle of the cortisol and the adrenal and the stress, and sometimes their bodies, though they don't like it, their bodies will become addicted to that adrenal and cortisol reaction. So in the fight zone, especially, they'll kind of pick a fight because
mm, yes.
choose to argue with another person just so they can get that adrenaline hit. And that makes it very difficult to be around, especially when you put someone on a continuum that's fawn and fight. That's kind of, if I may just venture for just a second, there's a book called It's Not You, and it's all about the codependent and the narcissistic personality.
Mm.
So, all right, just a little rabbit trail caveat.
I was
You
going to say,
ready?
I definitely know some people that are adrenaline junkies, and you can see that they get into that cycle.
True. Okay, so why are we going in circles? With the adrenal stress, this is where I just alluded to that introduction of when we have the adrenal stress and the cortisol reaction, we are also going to have an insulin release. Now, what triggers that? When we go into that fight or flight, the liver stores glycogen, the muscles store glycogen. When we're in fight or flight, cortisol is being released. And with that adrenaline, we're also going to have a release of the glycogen from the liver. That dump of surge of sugar is for our safety so that we can fight or flight. But when that doesn't happen necessarily, it's just internalized. Our body must release um, the insulin to get that blood sugar stabilized. This is upsetting my dog. I'm sorry, she's still whimpering. What are our symptoms of when we are finally in that adrenal continuum that is, I'm so sorry about Brooke. Lie down, baby. Whenever we get into that adrenaline chronic state, we will find ourselves with cortisol spiking that causes our blood sugar to drop in the middle of the night. People start waking at 2 or 3 in the morning. They get weight gain around the middle. Remember, that's where the liver dumped the glycogen, and now where we must have the insulin reaction. So we get insulin resistant cells there, and the person may become anxious because they don't have all of the other hormones that they need, like their thyroid hormones, pituitary hormones, and they aren't digesting their food well, so they're not carrying the minerals that they would need to calm them. They can experience low moods. For those that have the period cycle discomfort and complications, that is another factor. They can also experience restless legs. Minerals can help with that, but I also found out that polyester on the legs, so wearing those leggings, can also increase restless leg symptoms. They can experience brain fog and craving sweets because they've got the yo-yo of the sugar from the
Mhm.
adrenaline and the insulin. So one of the things that can help is eating protein before going to bed at night, and that will release glucagon, which will stabilize the blood sugar to sleep better through the night. So once we're able to take these adrenal adaptogens, people can not be waking in the middle of the night to get up and go to the bathroom and that kind of thing too. So
And
that's
I
another
just
symptom.
and I just wanted to ask you about that because I actually do um, eat some protein. A lot of times a boiled egg or some chia seeds or both
Mhm.
before I go to bed because I notice that I do sleep better. But I hear so many people say, "Oh, you need to intermittent fast. You shouldn't eat after, 5, 6 o'clock." So,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on that?
I've done both because you want the autophagy to kick in where you've had that time of not eating
Right.
and waiting to eat later in the morning, like 10:30, or because your body does do so well with fasting. We've got to get out of this adrenal fatigue before you can actually enjoy sleeping through the night. So I think if a person is in adrenal fatigue, eating protein before they go to bed and being able to sleep well and get that deep sleep is more important than the intermittent fasting. Now, once they get the adrenal adaptogens in their body and they start getting balanced, go for the intermittent fasting. I'm all for it with the MCT oil in the morning and becoming fat burners instead of sugar burners. And that's actually going to help the adrenals in the long run and the endocrine system. But we've got to give up one temporarily to be able to get that deep sleep that we need with the REM sleep.
I love how you say that priority because that's what I tell ladies too, because I see so many that are having those issues and not sleeping. So, and they're trying to do the intermittent fasting and it's causing worse issues. So that's right. So get that piece taken care of and then you can move on to the next step.
Yes, and you and you're inspiring me in this. I want to learn more about it, the iodine piece to that, to make
Mhm.
sure that we're nourishing the thyroid, which it goes B's and C's and minerals, adrenals, thyroid. Then we go into the hormones. I can't wait to learn as we speak of those priorities and how those build upon one another. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, now as we talk about those hormones that are disrupted because the body is so busy making the adrenaline with the cortisol putting on the brakes, it throws off the rest of the body's hormone system. And this is for women. We see that through the period of 28 days, that monthly cycle is going to follow certain times and seasons of releasing and balancing. Whenever we're in that fight or flight, the just after the follicular phase, sometimes ovulation gets thrown off. The luteinizing hormone is not released, and we don't get that bump of progesterone. It's really important that we have high enough progesterone. And that's another thing. Sometimes we can work that stair step of the hormones from the back. I'm finding that as I do some studies from the UK and from Australia, that they supplement quite a bit with Anna's Wild Yam Cream from Australia. You can look it up. Be careful. There are some um, mimickers. There are
Okay.
some scoffs. And so get the one from Australia or a good progesterone cream. There are several to be found in the US. But we've got to have enough progesterone. I know that learning a bit about progesterone in this research, I found that it's imperative for holding a pregnancy. And if they're not producing enough progesterone, they might have gone through the ovulation and the fertilization. But if they didn't have enough of the luteinizing hormone or the stimulating hormone to get the progesterone up, I know it's heartbreaking to have an end to a pregnancy when you so want a baby. I
Right.
know I longed for a child for so long, and the progesterone is imperative. So I know that you have studied that quite a bit, and I want to learn more from you on that. But we'll just touch on it right now, and we'll move into our next slide. I know you shouldn't do slides with a ton of notes on them, but I'm just going to blast through these bullet points because they were so important. So this was from um, some of the work of Dr. Barbara O'Neill, and she was saying that in our culture, there's so many challenges with the hormone and endocrine disruptors found in production of food. The eggs, the chickens being fed all the hormones, so eggs and meat and dairy additives. Birth control pills, the people that took the first birth control pills are now baby boomers. And so
Right.
they're now in their 60s, and there's so much challenge with breast cancer and various challenges with different degenerative conditions. Now we're dealing with some challenges from Roundup. That came out as a weed killer, right? But it's so much easier for farmers now. Excuse me, just 1 second. Brooke, lie down. Lie down, baby. Sorry, let me have to edit. That Roundup is sprayed on crops to dry them for harvesting because it's so much cheaper to be able to harvest the crops when they're already dried and on the ground. And so they just kill them. They kill the crops with poison and then they feed them to us. And I know
Right.
that the little round oat cereal things that we're all very familiar with get fed to babies all the time. They're chock full of, so sad, glyphosate. And
Mhm.
that is the key poison ingredient in Roundup. Dr. Myhill, that's Myhill, I spelled it incorrectly. She found 54% of her patients had the glyphosate in their gut microbiome. Now, what I learned about that too is that the glyphosate will mimic glycine, which is an amino acid. And when we're building a chain of amino acids to make a healthy protein, specifically collagen in this case,
Mhm.
uh, connective tissue, that glyphosate will come in as an imposter and take the place of glycine. And now you've got a weak link in that connective tissue, which is why so many people are having early hip replacements, knee replacements, aches and pains in the connective tissue, constant sprains and tears. Something else that we
I've wondered why, because it feels like it's really increasing, and I didn't know if it was just being recommended more or if we're having more issues with our body. So that's an interesting perspective. Thank you.
Well, in the research, it makes you wonder, putting those puzzle pieces together, if that's a part of our culture and our food processing that is having that detrimental effect on our bodies. So, something we can do, these are some things that were hints that we can do to try to avoid allowing these endocrine disruptors into our body is to store our food in glass, to get diapers made of starch. That was new to me.
I haven't
This
heard
is
of that
a
one.
lot of this, yeah, a lot of this was from the UK, the sources that I looked up in the UK, to get pacifiers made of rubber, not plastic, to use wooden rattles, indoles or cruciferous vegetables like our Brussels sprouts and our broccoli and cabbage and those type things that are sulfur containing can actually really help rid the body of these endocrine disruptors. That was one of my big takeaways. Cleaning the closet and cleaning my body, cleaning the closet of all the polyesters, cleaning the body by using these cruciferous vegetables and making those a huge part of my diet each day. And making sure that we're taking the good B complexes. It's good to take a B complex, not just a B this or a B that. It's good to take the methylated complex. We're finding that 60% of the people in the lab analysis that we're using are needing the methylated complexes. Flax seeds. Now, we've got to put these flax seeds in like a blender or a coffee grinder or something to break them up to release all of those omegas, because otherwise they're just fibrous and they just flow through our body, right? But those are going to help block the pathways from the plastics getting into our pathways. So these cruciferous vegetables are actually good to block the harmful plastics. Anna's wild yam cream, we've already mentioned that from Australia. One thing I wanted to mention is there's a lot of challenge with incontinence. A lot of that we're finding has to do with histamines, and that's a story for another day as well. Lowhistamineeats.com, that was lowhistamineeats.com, is a really good website to go to. From a graduate student named Max, she put together all of these different lists of foods that contain high histamines, foods that contain low histamines, and those are inflammatory in our body. They actually elevate the cytokines in our body and cause inflammation. Adrenal fatigue, Dr. Elizabeth Bright. Again, I've been studying these ladies that are in their 70s, these doctors and experts in the UK. And she says that our immune systems are lowered due to high cortisol. So staying in that fight or flight, getting the brakes put on all the time with the cortisol is actually lowering the immune system. So it's not just messing up the hormones, it's actually allowing the immune system to falter.
And you can see that so often when, I travel or somebody travels and you're under a lot of stress.
Mm.
What do you usually see? Your immune system starts to have issues, right? And you tend to get sick because you're not in your normal cycles and, eating healthy, and that adrenal fatigue is probably setting in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So we've got to, like you said, stay in those good systems, those good routines of hydration and healthy food, and to give yourself a little more grace whenever you're under a lot of stress so that you can avoid any sickness as kind of a repercussion. It's good to eat those high healthy fats like coconut oil and avocado oil, olive oil. Olive oil, not necessarily for cooking, but as finishing and taking into the body as a supplement or a nutrient, and reducing sugar. And we could talk more about sugar another day. These were some things that I thought were very imperative. I put this slideshow together for a group of young women that were in their 30s. They were just 30-year-olds. They were new mamas or wannabe mamas, newly married. And so this was very pertinent to their lifestyle at this time. It's very important to avoid the pads and the tampons that contain all of those chemicals and pesticides, and to even look at using those little silicone menstrual cups if possible, and reusable fabric pads, and just to make sure that you're not putting those endocrine disruptors directly into the female organs. Um, there
Great
were
point.
some UK-based sites like ChemTrust was one that I found, and it touched on even sunscreen. Whenever we start in the mountains, being so close with our high elevation with the sunshine, um, We've got to make sure that our sunscreens don't contain those suspected hormone disrupting chemicals. And you mentioned something about a natural one that I want to learn more about with fish peptides. That was
Mhm.
fascinating, friend. All right. Some things that we can learn about. Don't microwave our food in plastic. Gosh, I had a friend that used to cook eggs in plastic in the microwave every day. And just don't. Okay.
I did that in
Also,
college. I didn't know any better. Not only does it make a mess, I did it in the plastic
yeah, and it eats the plastic away. Where's it going?
into your body.
Yeah. Avoiding nonstick pans. There are some really good pans. I have a friend that does a cooking show on station now, and she was going over this the other day, and it was fascinating. And she was using nonstick pans and was naming some really good brands. I'm going to throw one out called Smithies with a Y. Smith with a Y. Smithies
Okay.
pans. They are hand forged and they're made of carbon and they're very healthy for the body. And then, of course, we can use cast iron. Um,
Yes.
but avoid black plastic cooking utensils. What? That was right there with the polyester to me. So I went through and I was like, okay. And instead, we're going to use stainless and silicone and bamboo.
Okay.
Okay.
And you think silicone is okay?
These sites said they were okay. The silicone menstrual cup and the silicone binkies for the baby's pacifiers.
Okay.
Apparently, silicone was approved in the UK, and they're
Okay.
usually ahead of us with some of the resonance things. Yet to be determined, but so far, so good. Good question. Do not let children like hold the receipt when you go to certain stores that require a receipt when you walk out the door. The printing and the process of that contains horrible chemicals. Don't stick it in your mouth and try to get your keys out of your purse. And if you're pregnant and handle receipts regularly at work, wash your hands and especially before eating, and ask your employer to be moved to another role if possible. Apparently, those receipts are super toxic.
That's so
But
scary.
yes, it says see our page on till receipts and endocrine disruptors. Again, that was from the UK. So that might be worth looking up if you're interested in finding out more about that. Um, this was just a little touch on the endocrine disruptors and the histamines that we mentioned a while ago. These are certain foods, again, that can cause inflammatory response in the body. And what's interesting about this is this cycle of high histamines also evokes high estrogen release, and that pushes down the progesterone. We don't want to be going in that direction. We want low histamines, we want higher progesterone and lower estrogen. Remember, the phenolic rings in the chemicals are going to cause higher estrogen, and that's what was causing some breast disruption in abnormal cells in some of the people that we've been testing. So, lowering the histamines, what can we do if you don't know if you're eating a high histamine food? Drink nettle tea or find an enzyme that has DAO in it. So, a supplement with DAO will lower that histamine effect and allow you to focus on raising your progesterone level. These were some cleaning products that are um, typical but better on the bottom row. So the typical ones are on the top, and the hey, try this instead because they don't contain those disruptors. I found an endocrine disruptor relief. Thought that was
Mm.
interesting. However, what we learned about it is that it contains the amino acids. You see the L dash down there at the bottom
Mhm.
on the supplement facts. Those are amino acids. If we have glutamine, methionine, cysteine, glycine, and then there's taurine as well. This looked like a pretty decent supplement to me. If we have those healthy amino acids in our body, they can actually be binders and get them out of our body, get the plastics out of our body. Now, cruciferous vegetables and these healthy amino acids, you can get them from breaking down proteins. Let's look at the next slide. It's a lot of words, sorry. Okay, cruciferous vegetables that contain sulfur in them are going to break these compounds down, but then we've got to quickly usher them out of the body. So there's phase one, breaking them down, phase two, getting them out. So rapidly getting them out with conjugating or binding them to prepare for excretion. And we're going to use specific amino acids like glycine, glutamine, and cysteine. You also saw taurine in there, and those will make them water soluble and get those endocrine disruptors out of the body. We've already talked about the grapefruit essential oil can clear the sites, the receptor sites of the hormones. And skin is our largest detox organ of the body. So if we're going to be ushering out a lot of these plastics, you can use a dry bristle skin brush and just scrub your skin, especially this drainage port and the sternum drainage port.
And
And
before showering, correct?
yes, so you're doing it dry. You don't honestly have to shower right after. I've got a mama of five littles, and I'm like, honey, just do the dry bristle skin brush. If you don't have time for a shower at that time, just make sure that you're getting that scurf rim off the skin. Ideally, you would get bentonite clay powder, add a little water to it, and after you dry bristle brush, rub that paste that you've made all over your body and then get in a hot, hot, hot water bath and just soak in that and let the bentonite clay pull out 40 times its weight in toxins from your body. Plus, you need an excuse to sit in a hot bath and soak.
Right.
All right, we're almost there, guys. Some of the things that we can do in supplements and in changing our lifestyle is avoiding sugar and caffeine. We eat that protein before bed. It will
Can you
stabilize.
just touch on the caffeine part? Because I always
Oh,
feel so terrible because I'm always saying caffeine really doesn't help your body because it creates more of that adrenaline, correct? Can you just touch on
yeah.
that? Because I always, feel like I don't want to say that to people, especially at church as they're pushing a lot of coffee and
Oh,
tea.
yeah, yeah. Let's touch on that for a minute. Sorry, I was just like glossing over it. But anytime that we drink caffeine, guys, we're gonna sandbag those adrenals and we're gonna get a punch of adrenaline. That's why it works so well, right?
Mhm.
So we're gonna get a punch of adrenaline. All right, you've been with us through this whole slideshow. What's gonna put on the brakes? Cortisol. And the detriment of making progesterone, making thyroid hormones, making pituitary hormones. Oh, and what else is going to be released? We're going to wind up getting an insulin release, which is going to cause the weight gain around the middle because now we're getting into the insulin resistant cells and things. So the caffeine is actually going to kind of sandbag those adrenals, which can ultimately lower the immune system and all the things that we talked about a while ago, right? A
Right.
little bit is okay, but if we really want to balance this, take those adrenal adaptogens, avoid the sugar and the caffeine, eat protein before bed, get that good night's sleep. The adrenal adaptogens, rhodiola, ashwagandha, holy basil, those are some really good ones. You find them just look in the adrenal section and get those adaptogens in the body, and it'll throw those raw building blocks, those materials into our system so that our body can go, hey, I can make a thyroid hormone out of this or a progesterone out of that. Get those healthy fats in the body, the avocado oil, the
Sorry,
olive oil.
with
Okay.
one quick question with the adaptogens. I've seen a lot of them where they put them in the plastic capsules.
Mhm.
So, we're trying to avoid the plastics. So, what would your suggestion be for those adaptogens?
Sometimes those can be like made of the gelatin. Um, it's funny that you ask that. I'm researching right now, and I think I've found a really good source I'd love to get back with you on, but it looks like a really good adrenal additive from a company that I'll mention kudos to another time. It's still under research. So we've just got to get those in our body. Do you know of a powder or anything that we can use to get those in?
Well, we have the liquid in the drop, so you can also that has the ashwagandha. And
Mhm.
we also have a powder drink, but there's also probably the option for tinctures. And
Okay.
that's what I was curious if
Yeah.
you had tried that or not. And also
So,
the tea, like I use ashwagandha with my tea when I do a tea
mhm.
mixture.
Okay. What we're finding is that many people are testing very favorably to the drops whenever they're having adrenal challenges and they're
Mm.
needing some adrenal adaptogen support. And interestingly enough, I wonder how all this correlates with cleaning out the fat cells because the
Mm.
body will store toxins in those non-vital tissues. And I do know that some of those will actually detox the fat cells. I wonder if it's detoxing from some of these plastics and chemicals.
Mm. Okay.
Love to know more. Um, Taking in the healthy fats, eating raw greens and clean proteins, that's a really good way to stabilize the blood sugar instead of eating the starches so that we don't get that. If we elevate the blood sugar and get an insulin reaction, the other side of the seesaw, remember, was the adrenal and the cortisol. If we get one, we're going to get the other. It goes backward too. If we get one with the insulin, we're going to get the adrenal rise. So if we eat sugar, we're going to get that adrenaline rise too. Um, Being by to bed by 10 and sleeping till at least 6, because if you're awake till 11 o'clock, your liver's going to go, well, we're up for the long haul. We got to get a second wind. Let's dump that glycogen out of the liver, get that blood sugar flowing, and then you can't go to sleep.
Mm.
So a lot of people are like, oh, no, no, I go to bed at 1 and I sleep till 10. It's not the same. Going to bed at 10, the most restorative physiologically and psychologically is going to be between the hours of 10 and 6 or 7. So,
And I just wanted to say, I've been really working on trying to get morning light just as
mhm.
the sun is rising first part of the morning, because that's supposed to help stabilize your hormones as well.
The pineal gland, exposing it to the sunlight in the morning, it helps the circadian rhythm go, oh, let me calibrate. Yeah, so that's really, really helpful.
And
Love
it
it.
can be hard in Colorado getting outside, but it really makes a big difference for my sleep.
Yes, thankfully we have the dogs to wake us up. And finally, this one is being quiet. Isn't she sweet when she's asleep? They're so sweet when they're asleep. Oh, she's awake. Okay, the minerals, B's, and C's are going to help those adrenals as well. Now, do you remember a while ago we were talking about emotions? Emotions carry frequencies. So it's
Mm.
very important when we're dealing with these emotions, they're going to affect our bodies. So I know with our labs, we actually do get a homeopathic that we make that carry the balancing frequency to some of this guilt or shame or anger or grief. And we actually put frequencies in there homeopathically. And that's your forte, my friend, is knowing those homeopathics that can actually help a person balance. It's not that we're masking or covering up those emotions, but rather we're stimulating the limbic system of the brain through some of the Bach flowers to and resonance to actually allow them to process in a healthy way to shift those negative frequencies and emotions so that they don't cascade into the body and cause organs and systems to be stressed detrimentally. So that's just something to be aware of. There is a group called Retracing Sequence Method. I'm learning more about this. We find that toxic beliefs turn into a soul script. That soul
Mm.
script of beliefs is in our subconscious. You may not even be aware that it's there. And what happens then is those beliefs are causing the body to release certain hormones for different biological functions in our body. And if we are running through our subconscious negative soul scripts, it can affect so many things in our bodies, many different debilitating illnesses and chronic situations can be due to a negative soul script. So we have ways of finding out what that is through different systems and testing. Even in our lab, we can test the resonance of those and find out what some of those soul scripts are and deal with them through homeopathics. But that's something to really focus on if someone's really trying to deal with something chronic and they don't know how to get past it, is to do some systematic evaluation or analysis to help them figure out what is that underlying belief that could be messaging the DNA to carry it out in the body. Questions we could go through?
Did want to ask one thing. I noticed that you skipped over the vagus nerve reset,
Oh,
and I
did
was wondering if
I?
you could just
I'm
close with
sorry.
that if you don't mind, because I've been
Oh,
trying it before I've been going to bed,
sweet.
since you taught me that one, and I know another one as well, and I think it does help calm down your nervous system. So could you explain why you would do it, and then just maybe close with showing that if you don't mind?
Oh, I'd love to. If you'll show your addition to it that we talked about the other night, that was super helpful. Um, yeah, I would love to, because what's happening when we are in fight or flight is that we're staying in that sympathetic nervous system. Another thing with our labs is we can determine which vertebrae are out of place, out of alignment. If I've got someone who's stuck in fight or flight, sometimes it's due to the C1 vertebrae being out of place. So it can be structural as well as needing adaptogens. So, vagus nerve is very important to reset. What we do is it's through proper breathing. I think I told you I watched 4 videos and I put them all together into one simple to use method of resetting the vagus nerve. And then we added yours to it. You can lie on your back with your feet in a chair. You're lying on the floor, so your feet are up, 90-degree angle at the knees, 90-degree angle at the hips. You're lying on your back. That's going to cause the blood to pool at the spine, and that's going to invite a neurological reset at the spine, especially when we couple it with breathing. So we open our arms up, open the chest, and we're going to breathe deeply. So we breathe in for 4 counts. And just when you think you can't hold any more air, you take one more sniff and you pull in that air. You hold it for 7 seconds. Now I'm going to add something to it in just a minute, but this is enough for now. 4-second inhale, sniff, hold it for 7 seconds, and then exhale for 8 seconds. Now, are you ready? We're going to add something to that 7-second hold because there is an auricular nerve on the roof of our mouth. So we're going to rub the tip of our tongue on that auricular nerve to stimulate it to reset the vagus nerve. So just rub the tip of your tongue from the soft palate all the way up to the front behind the teeth, back and forth, back and forth. We're going to do that for the 7 seconds that we're holding the air. And then as we exhale, we are going to exhale for 8 counts. It's very important to evoke in inviting or bringing in the trigeminal nerve. And we're going to also have vibration in the throat and chest that the vagus nerve runs from the brain to the gut. And that gut-brain connection is so important. So as we're exhaling for 8 counts, we're going to hum. And you're pushing all that air out within 8 seconds. Amy, you added something else.
And I had seen this. I cannot remember his name, so I cannot um, give him, say his information. But he basically talked about that if you can reach along your right side of your neck, you can actually kind of feel that vagus nerve. And he talked about using your tongue, and I'm going to show you, put it into this your cheek, and then humming and just going up and down, trying to calm that down. So.
Mm.
And it's almost like you were talking about with the frequencies, you can get it where you can focus on that. So I loved, I tried this last night actually, just
Yeah.
combining yours and mine before I went to bed just to see if it made a difference. And I felt like I slept a little better, but we're going to have to do more, more trials.
Okay. Should we run through 2 cycles of that with
Sure,
everyone?
let's
Have you
do that.
practiced it? Okay. So, and remember it was on the right side. And I think our Pictures on our screen are flipped. So guys, remember it's on the right side that you're actually
Mhm.
going to pull down on that, just in front of that sternocleidomastoid muscle right there. Okay, you ready? We're going to inhale for 4 and then we're going to sniff. Okay, ready? Inhale. Hold for 7. Tongue on the roof of the mouth. 5, 6, 7. Now we exhale, hum, and we pull down. 8 counts. You're humming and you're pulling this down and you push all that air out on the 8th second. Inhale. 1, 3, 4. Sniff. Rub on the roof of the mouth for 7 seconds. Exhaling for 8. Use your tongue
Mm.
over on the cheek like Amy showed us. And pulling down, push all the air out. That should help reset the vagus nerve. And we do that
That's
over and
wonderful.
over. And if you're doing that while you're lying on your back, you've just incorporated 5 different things. So
You
I
do
love
this
it.
when you're stressed. And
Mhm.
also, I do it sometimes in the middle of the night if I wake up and I'm having a hard time calming myself down to go to back to sleep. So, what a wonderful tip. And just all of this information, Nikki, you always challenge my way of thinking and help spur me on to just even understanding this. And I just love how the frequencies of all these different things that God created or didn't, how we can see that in numbers and
Mm.
how it can make a big difference just incorporating some of this information and these tips. So thank you so much for your time. I know you're so busy with so
Oh,
many clients. And I will put Nikki's information in here. So if you want to contact her for a consult or for any testing, she does an amazing job. So thank you so much.
oh, totally my pleasure, dear Amy. I love getting to spend time with you. I love learning from you. And what a privilege to get to share this new information today. So
Thank
I
you
hope
so
it's
much.
helpful. My pleasure. Have a blessed rest of your day, and thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye.